Peace, y'all. Peace. Peace in here. Welcome. Peaceful, respective greetings to you all. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty. I am known as Joy Allen. I am known as Astama Atef Newt. I am known as Ishram. So, and so many Amamal, and so many other parts of me, acknowledging in those capacities. Now, this evening in the studio, I will have with me Khepra Ptah. And this Siba calls me, he recognizes one of my attributes, Ishram. So you may hear him address me as Ishram, and that's why he knows her. He knows her all powerful self. So now I'm gonna share with you a little bit about Siba Khepra and the Ishram factor. So Siba Khepra Ptah, he also has attributes that he recognizes, and he has many talents as we do. And one of his talents, one of his tributes to us all is would be the readings that he offers. So he has offered, and I have taken him up on his offer of readings. And my readings that I received was from him was in regards to Orishas. So with that being said, and my growth in that area of my life, Siba Khepra Ptah knows me and recognizes me as Ishram. All right, everyone. Okay. So he will be with us all shortly. He is making technical adjustments, and I know he has been here at least 4 times on this platform. His most recent video before today is the second most popular video on the Karmic Dynasty platform. Now, that video I shared day 1 of the Karmic Dynasty Marathon. So if you missed it, that's all right. You can go to the Karmic Dynasty platform on YouTube. Khepra has his own playlist over there. So just look for his name. You'll see the video. Depending on what device you're using, you can sort my videos according to how the most popular, and you'll see his video is number 2. So there's many ways to sort through them all if that's on YouTube. Now, if you're on Twitter, you'll have to run it back a few videos ago, and same thing with Facebook. The title, the covers don't always transfer to Facebook. So you just be looking for a video with Khepra. I don't even know how the Facebook sort goes. I don't go in Facebook for video references from my own platform. So definitely for me, the most user-friendly place to find my videos would be on YouTube. I have them sorted there. Some of them I have playlists created and also other things. So check that out. If there's something on there you're looking for, you cannot locate, you can definitely contact me. I've had people send me requests before for specific videos. Now, the thing is, for some reason, is how they're sorting them. They're not seeing the video, but I can send it to them. So I don't know how all that works. Depends again on which device you're using and how you're sorting the videos, you know. So again, Khepra will be here shortly. I have received today a last minute request. Well, not last minute, but a request I just recently received, because time is of the essence, as some say. I don't recognize time in those manners. And either way, so I have another broadcast scheduled today after this Gnosticism and Healing Power of Sound with Khepra Ptah, and King Adonis will be here, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And King Adonis is speaking on, I just created that post on Facebook, Joy Allen, YouTube, Karmic Dynasty, and Twitter, MKDTNT. And so the title of that video is Emotional Thinking Balancing with King Adonis. So King Adonis will be here, and that is in reference to meditation and some other things. So, excuse me. I appreciate y'all. I'm about to go get me some water. I think some more water. And but yeah, King Adonis will be here at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. His first appearance on Karmic Dynasty, so I'm looking forward to having him here. And speaking of him and making reference to news, King Adonis is involved and a volunteer for the upcoming annual event, September 2023 in Atlanta, the Ramech Khepra, the Soul Nation Expo. I will continue to speak on that. Y'all know I will. Y'all know if I speak on, y'all know because I speak on my tours, events as I do, that I'm definitely going to be speaking of the Ramech Khepra right up till the day. And actually, I'm going to be speaking on it on that day because the broadcast we're going to be streaming live, and there's going to be so many live streams from that event that day. And so definitely stay tuned. Y'all gonna hear about it. Y'all checking out this cover? So here is the council members. Definitely. Now, yeah, we got my brother Nuk Ra. He is here, and he has his evidence over belief t-shirt on. So y'all can definitely contact him, E over B, on Facebook, Evidence Over Belief. And he over there on Facebook. I know he's also on Instagram as well. I'm looking for his banner right now. And also we have a council member, my sister Nuk Abhasa Marut, and you can see her on Facebook as well. That's her name there. And over her image on this flyer. And yeah, my brother Nuk Ra, here's his website and his Facebook. You can contact him and check him out. He promotes our businesses, us business owners, and helps us with our recognition in the public eye and gets us out there. And my sister Nuk Abha Samarut, you can see her on Facebook as well. She has here's her Facebook name. She has her Life Force Metaphysics. You can check her out on Facebook. And of course, I Astma Tefnut in that capacity am a council member of the Ramech Khepra as well. Just us three council members. So for more information, further information, any information, contact one of us three. So I appreciate your time right now and listening and hearing me out. And I also definitely appreciate your patience. Right now, I'm bringing in the studio my Seba, this Seba. Seba means teacher, SBA, if you didn't know. Seba means teacher. It also means student in the masculine aspect. If there's a T, when there's a T on the end, Sebat, then that's the feminine of the teacher or student word. Okay, so now I'm bringing in Khepra Ptah. He looks ready. You ready? Oh, he's ready. He's coming in. All right. Peace, Hotep.
What's up?
Ooh, how are you, brother? How are you, Seba?
I'm doing quite well.
That's what's up. So, all right. Welcome to Karmic Dynasty. Again, I appreciate you being here. And as always, and if you would introduce yourself to us who do not know you, who are not aware of you, who've not seen you before, who you're new to, and familiarize us all again who we are aware of you and open as you see fit. And again, welcome and gratitude. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Well, my name is Khepra Ptah. I have been involved in Kemetic studies, metaphysical studies ever since I can remember. I learned a lot from my father as far as dealing with African sciences hidden within Judaic teachings. At the time, it was known as hoodoo. A lot of my roots is from the South. Also, I am a diviner. I do Reiki healing. I do readings with various divination systems. I work with Ifa. I also work with the Oracle of Tahuti. So one of the things that I do for people who are interested is I tell you who your spirit guides are, your orishas, the netters that are around you, and so forth. I also deal with healing work. I'm into energy healing, and I also have a lot of experience doing sound vibrations. So one of the things I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk about Gnosticism or the Gnostic teachings of sound vibration. So before we do that, is there anything else, sister, that you would like to say as I'm coming in? All right, cool.
Apologies. What is your question? I had to grab me a water.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that if there's anything else you wanted to announce, once I started flowing, I start flowing.
You know what I mean? No, I have nothing else to announce. What I did mention is how you gave me. I took you up on one of the on the readings that you offer in regards to the Orishas, and that if they hear you reference me as Ishram, I gave them a little that background on that's why.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
I like how the name sounds.
You like how that name sounds?
Yeah, it's got that word of power, Ram.
Yes.
With the solar
Mm-hmm.
works with the Ra, yeah, that's fire. So before I continue, uh, I would like to begin by giving thanks and praise to our elders, teachers, and guides, not just those here, but those on the other side. So I'd like to introduce you to the first sound, and if you could just say it with me, it's I-A-O. That's the Gnostic sound of God or Yahweh or Yahweh, which is actually the four elements or the elements. Okay, it's shortened
Okay.
O or I-A-O, and coded in your solar book that's been also called the Holy Bible, which is just a rewriting of the ancient mysteries. Okay, as I am the Alpha and Omega. So the actual sound vibration is E. Into the nose, then out the mouth. Ah. Oh.
Kepler, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, see, but let me see where we at. Oh, your mic is muted.
Gotcha.
Your mic is muted. Oh, it says your mic isn't connected.
All right. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, there you go. There you go.
All right. Okay. So that was E, I, O, I am the Alpha and the Omega. And what you want to do is when you chant these sounds, you want to feel this throughout your whole body. Your head, heart, abdomen. E, ah, oh. You can do it silently, breathing in through the nose, out of the mouth. Got that? So, I want to start kind of getting into it a little bit more. Some would say that there are teachings that are secret within all religions, including Christianity. And a lot of us were raised with the Western Judeo-Christian belief system. We were taught to take things literally. And at the same time, because of this, and because of all the dogmas behind it, we threw the baby out with the bathwater. Because all these were, you could say plagiarizations if you like, but at the same time, they're just rewritings of teachings that were much more ancient, that come from your ancestors all the way into the dawn of antiquity. So we talk about these secret teachings that are within all religions. And when you strip away the trappings of these religions, you discover that there is one universal teachings. It's just that this teaching appears to be different. But at the same time, there's different worldviews and cultures in which the master key to these traditions became veiled under. And that has a lot to do with the environment, what people have gone through, the wars. As time goes on, there may have been misinterpretations. But the knowledge, though, the knowledge cannot really be destroyed. Okay? This knowledge comes directly from a higher source. And that's why, if you really study all the religions on this planet, you begin to discover that they're very similar in what they're saying. It's just how you view them and how you look at these things. Some speak about God as a personality, some speak about God as an energy. Some people say, well, the higher self is God. And some say that God is above and beyond creation. And I say that all of these aspects of insight have truth to them. But the goal of all religions with who you are, you see. Religion, realign, religion, bring back into the many, or bring the many back into the one. Because the supreme being is the one that is many, and the many that is the one. So others believe that it's simply the remnants of lost knowledge that has enwrapped itself in today's religions, yet working as the mystical path of achieving enlightenment. And gnosis, that's where the word gnosis comes to play. Gnosis means knowledge, and this knowledge is obtained by way of the Logos, which is the sacred word. Now, the Logos is the sacred word in which brings all into existence. It is the divine spark of reason, working as the guiding principle behind being. And in the mystical understandings of the Christ, not so much a historical person, but the mystical idea of the Christ, each and every one of us carrying this Christ seed within us, and each and every one of us are capable of having this internal anointing manifest as even the first, second, and third person of the Trinity. And the Trinity is an allusion to the mystical number 3, representing many things: past, present, future, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Man, woman, child, right? So without this balance, or without this Trinity, there would not be a completion in creation. Like, for instance, we start off with a dot. That dot needs a reference, so it becomes 2 dot, and now a line can be drawn. Then you put a third dot, and you can draw 3 more lines. And at the same time, you have 3 angles. Now you have the first complete shape, which is a triangle, which has 3 dots, 3 lines and 3 angles, hence the Holy Trinity. So it is this shaping principle taking place throughout the universe. The Trinity is referred to as 3 persons. Person comes from the Latin word meaning mass and can be further broken down into persona, meaning through sound. So the ancestors and the ancient ones understood that you can transform your personality and your energy field through sound. In fact, sound shapes creation. When you get a chance, look up how sound shapes creation, and you get a good understanding of what I'm talking about. Even when sound is vibrating, where there's sand on a plate, the sound will shape the sand into all types of geometrical shapes. Then you get to study about geometry and its connection with sound. So from my point of view, the seeds of gnosis not only come from the ancient world, but I am also saying that there's a connection to these seeds of gnosis with Kemet. Because just about all the connections in which we know, all the Judaic connections, if you study all the Judaic teachings, they seem like they can't stop writing about ancient Egypt. Whether they talk about how they were allies in the beginning or enemies when it all boils down to it, later on. But they also speak about Ethiopia and Kemet representing something very powerful and at the same time, at times favorable in the eyes of God. So it's interpreted in different ways by many. This knowledge has been suppressed by those who wanted to stay in control and miseducate you and teach you all kind of things that were half-assed. Instead of getting the full picture of ancient Kemet, they gave you the ass and elbows of ancient Kemet and these ancient civilizations were. But they'll talk about the ruins, and then you run into all kinds of information about ruins. It doesn't get into the philosophy, you see, or tell you about the sciences that it took to build these ruins half of the time. You have to do extra research. You see what I mean? So gnosis is a state of knowing that is beyond the senses. To be Gnostic is not necessarily, privy to any particular religion. Though many are satisfied with the notion that Gnosticism came from Judeo-Christian beliefs. However, one of the main teachings of Gnosticism is that God that we have come to worship is not really the highest aspect of the divine, but actually a lesser being who thinks that it is. And one of the main teachings of Gnosticism was and is that matter itself is a prison. Not to say that matter is evil, okay? But the philosopher Plato, an initiate of the Commission teachings, understood that each individual has these natural blessings. Each individual has their own divine destiny with an access to their own divine spark of reason. Unfortunately, we have been in prison to our 5 senses and our desires. And this is what we're speaking on. You're supposed to actually gain mastery over matter, over your physical form. You see, these are earth, wind, fire, water, and ether. But not be a prisoner to it. Therefore, you have to tap into that which is beyond the senses. The ancient Gnostics understood this, and they saw that this world be an imperfect copy of a more luminous one. And this world was created by what is called the demiurge. The demiurge is the lesser god who I spoke of earlier that believed itself to be the supreme being, and humanity is under control and tyranny of a group of entities called archons, and the archons manipulate humanity from behind the scenes to get us to do their bidding, and they operate through the people that are in power by miseducating you and dumbing you down and keeping you in fear. Every time you look around, there's always some new disease out there, or there's always another group of people that you should be fearful of, you see, or the economy is going to crash at any minute, or God is going to rip through the clouds and send a legion of angels down and destroy everything. Or World War III is always around the corner. All this to keep you in fear and to keep you from the moment, to keep you thinking that something could happen as opposed to being in a now where it is happening, you see. So when we reach that state of gnosis, you experience like a oneness with everything. But if you're in fear, false evidence appearing real, and caught up with beliefs and desires that will hold you back, these cause conflict and it distracts you from your own destiny. And because we are incarnated in matter, we have desires that keep us in a state of dissatisfaction. You see what I mean? So it's not a bad thing. It's just understanding that this is a process in which we go through as we're evolving on a soul level. So the incarnated soul has forgotten its origin. And because it is forgotten, it is now in soul prison. So one challenge that comes with the human condition is us losing recall of our original state and being misaligned with life's purpose and destiny. And the ancient Commissions say that the Ba goes to heaven as the body goes to earth. So heaven, or that is the source, that is the highest aspect of being, is our true home. This physical plane in which we visit and we exchange energy is temporary and transient. All things arise from the none, a state of non-differentiation, and light arises from this none and expresses itself as a multitude of forms. Hence, the supreme being is the many that is one, and the one that is many, the one that is many, and the many that is one. Where at the same time in which the ancient knowledge is being rediscovered, more and more people are beginning to find artifacts, information. They're beginning to read about it. It's even available in comic books, right? So one of the things that brought back Gnosticism to this world is around 1945, the Nag Hammadi texts were discovered in Upper Egypt, or Kemet. They're so named because they were discovered by a man named Muhammad al-Saman, and they were written by a Christian mystic, supposedly. However, when you look at these Gnostic teachings, you'll also run across references to ancient Kemet and everything else. Even them speaking about Egypt being the center of the world, and the prophecies of Egypt's doom, that is, the doom of Kemet that was coming, and why the priests would eventually have to take this knowledge and scatter it and eventually bring it back together. So the content was written by a Christian Gnostic, and these were in the Coptic language. The Coptic language is what actually remains of the ancient Commission language that we have known as the Coptic, or some people simply call Medu Neter. But actually, the Medu Neter is the script that was written for the higher elite at that time. Okay? So regardless, more and more discoveries are being made, and within this past decade, proven that the ancient ones were more intelligent than given credit. So when it comes to Gnostic teachings, we will see that it is not just to encompass one school of thought, but many points of view. But you have to get away from the Western indoctrination that makes us not see what is right in front of us and keeps you in a level of dependence on this structure and on this system, teaching you that you can't do without it. And they always want to tell you that you're less than. Okay? So there's a hint of the possibility that they were understanding the uniqueness of the spiritual journey of the individual thousands of years ago. And it's evidence that's in the ancient texts. Unfortunately, not everybody was always supportive of this fact. Like, for instance, around the 2nd century AD, Irenaeus wrote a huge body of work to refute what he considered the heresies. And his focus was to refute Gnosticism, with his main target being the school of Valentinus, which was being propagated by Ptolemaeus. And the Valentinians seen themselves as Christians, but they were mystical. They were also assertive in reaching out to people and bringing others into their school of thought. You see, the type of church that we were exposed to was about pistis, grace, not about knowledge that leads to gnosis, but being saved by grace. So therefore, you have been given the idea that you should reject knowledge, and that knowledge is actually evil, because they link it to the serpent and basically speak as if this knowledge coming into the world would only do us harm and good. But at the same time, there is logic to this, because there was also an initiatory system where you had to come up through the grades in these ancient mystery schools and schools of thought, because there are those who felt that they needed to be responsible with how they taught this knowledge and to whom they teach it to. But this was because the ages began to decline, where people begin to forget and become more self-centered. So if you study ancient Indian teachings, they talk about the four yugas. And according to the mystical teachings of Abdul Hakim, they talk about 5 ages and speak about how we reach the age of Amen, where everything would be hidden from us. And even in the Yoruba teachings, where they talk about the age of Oba Junjun, that is the all-consuming king. See, so there's always a point in which we reach um, darkness in our collective consciousness. We begin to quarrel, fight, forget how to be. There is a lack of understanding of God, the soul, or should I say, the divine within, and how each and every one of us are connected to this supreme one, and how we are expressions of the one as the many. So the influence of these people who wanted to destroy the ancient knowledge, or at least keep it from everyone, made an impact on the Roman Empire, and it'd be active into the 4th century AD. And like most forms of Gnosticism, the Valentinians believed the individual had the ability to gain direct experience with the divine without a mediator. Now, this was the time when heretics were not treated nicely and where they were often put to death. And this was clear in the actions of Theodosius. And we see that the Gnostic concept of Christ, the focus was not necessarily directed towards the historical person, but more or less a state of awareness and an aspect universe was intelligent, and that the outer universe was a reflection of our inner universe. And therefore, just as you can communicate with aspects of yourself, you can communicate with aspects of the universe as well. Hence, to be able to call and speak to the universe. And just like your DNA, the universe around you, the universe, the one phrase, the one song is voice activated. So the Gnostics often called the principles aeons, which were not only considered to be aspects of time and periods, but also faculties that the supreme being made up is what is called the pleroma, which is the fullness of existence. It is the archons that control our world, which put fear in us and try to disconnect us from the very thing that could set us free, our access to spirit. Therefore, we must explore the concepts of pistis and gnosis. We have to go beyond grace and into knowledge. The grace is when you reach a divine level of understanding who you are, okay? Not meaning that you can just do whatever you want to your fellow human being or your sister and brother, and then continue living without consequences, you see, because what you do to others, you're actually doing to yourself in so many ways. Pistis is a Greek concept that began as the goddess of trust and honesty, but in the Christian belief system, pistis became the concept of grace as a gift from God, as opposed to gnosis, the attainment of divine knowledge. So, when we look into the concept of the Christian Bible, it talks about Adam knowing his wife. So to know indicates, according to what the Bible is saying, that there is an intimacy. When you know something, you're intimate with it. You love it. You're one with it, you see. So I want to talk about something really quick. There's the concept of eros. Eros being lust, right? When you're attracted to someone, that's being shot in the butt with Cupid's arrow. And then there's also philo, when you have a love for something. And then there's also agape, which is actually universal, unconditional love. So these are 3 levels of this word that people have been trying to figure out. But when you look at the Commission word for love, you get the word mer, which means to cultivate. So it's because to know is to be intimate. To know the truth is to be intimate with the truth. And at the same time, it brings forth the understanding of the true mystery of knowing oneself. To know oneself is to have an intimate relationship with yourself. In the Purdom Heru Imger, the scribe Anui says, Rek Rena, meaning I know my name. And the name is one's identity, and also the sound and vibrations that one calls upon to summon oneself or to summon an ancestor who went by that name. It's a form of knowing yourself. And this is why it is good to have a good name and let your name bring forth the sweet savor with your good works. The scribe Anui also says, Nukba in a term, meaning my soul is divine. But he also says, not a member of me is without divinity, meaning that unlike later teachings, the Commissions understood that having a physical form allows us to express ourselves and define our existence as individuals with our own unique experiences. However, we also understand that you can go beyond the senses to obtain knowledge. Hence, the Commissions had an understanding of the four elements known as fire, air, earth, and water, as well as their qualities. These elements are also the process of cycles that are forever fluctuating, expanding, and contracting, which is why it is a good thing for us to rise above the base sense faculties to the higher sense faculties. The method is not to see the body as a curse. Okay, it's not to see the body as a curse, but understand that the body is the divine temple as the vehicle for divine expression. And that is how we elevate beyond the limitations of our senses. In fact, the Commissions honored the body temple so much that upon, even after death, it was still considered useful, hence mummification. So to truly love a person of the opposite gender is to fall in love with the aspects of yourself. A marriage of the yin and yang principle, the shu and tefnu within one's being, within every person. This is a love that is beyond lust and is unconditional, which would be called agape. Now, when we take it back to ancient Kemet, we have the word mer, right? Which means plow. It is also the name of the plow as well as love. So when we tap into the Commission idea, we remember that love is identified with being able to cultivate the land, which means in order to develop love for anything, it takes work. So the more we work on raising our vibration, the better and the higher we begin to vibrate. Hence these words of power in which I spoke of earlier. One of the sounds that I learned, and by the way, there's a lot of things that I learned from my family, like I kind of mentioned earlier. I come from a family of mystics, and chances are we have mystics in our family. We all have somebody that's into something. We all have that uncle or that auntie or that grandmother that everybody says is so wise. A lot of people don't want to just talk to grandma about just anything. And then grandma, auntie, uncle, moms or pops will pass this information down as time goes on. And sometimes it'll come to you in spirit. One example, like for instance, when my father took me into a stage of initiation, he had me kneel and I had to, take on some dove's blood and so forth on the bottom of my feet. And I chanted the tetragrammaton, right? The tetragrammaton, even though that's dealing with Judaic mysticism, I want us to transcend getting caught up on the dogmatism behind the Abrahamic faith that's been pushed upon us. But I want to get into the mystical aspects of it because that is what takes you back to Kemet. That is what these priests who created these religions were initiated into, okay? So we look into the tetragrammaton, which people call Yahweh, 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 and so forth. And we see that there's a YHWH. And the ancestors' spirit told me to breathe this sound, breathing in Yah, counting to 4, and then breathing out Yahweh and Way, counting to 4, breathing in Va, counting to 4, and breathing out Hey, counting to 4. Now, here's the thing. I was speaking to my cousin in Louisiana, and she told me that spirit taught her the same thing, and that she has been doing the same thing. You see, so everyone is connected. So I would like to share this method with you. So, by the way, this is smoke detector going off. I was trying to get that silly thing to stop. I even put in a new battery. So before somebody says, "Hey, we hear your smoke detector," just
You
wanted to go
good?
ahead.
We good.
Got
Good.
Cool, cool. So you just want to like sit up for a minute, straighten out your back. You know, one thing you don't want to do is slouch. You're gonna breathe in through the nose. Okay. You're gonna breathe in. You write ya mentally. Hold it. You know, you can count to 4 as you hold it. Breathe out. Hey, counting to 4. Hold it. Count to 4. Breathing in. Va. Counting to 4. Hold it. Count to 4. Hey. Breathing out. Counting to 4. Hold it. Count to 4. You're gonna take a couple minutes and do that. And they're gonna do it mentally, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and sound off, so you can go ahead and connect with the sound, and then we're gonna do it in silence. Ya. Hey. Va. Hey. Ya. Hey. Va. Hey. And we're going to do it in silence. That's a quick demonstration. Try that for about 5 minutes. And then you can extend to 15 minutes. And remember, as you're breathing in, you're not going to breathe from the chest. You're going to breathe from the lower diaphragm. Breathing into the nose, breathing out of the mouth. Okay?
Now you know what? If I may,
Mm-hmm.
that lower diaphragm breathing, I've been working on that lately. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm good at that.
Mm-hmm.
You have some instruction for that right now?
Sure. Okay, so, all right. Everybody, as you're breathing in, and we're not going to put the sound in, we're just going to go ahead and just do it. Breathe into the nose and make your stomach come out like a pot belly. Not lifting the chest. Okay. Now they call this thumo breathing. Breathe into the nose. You breathe. Now, one thing you can also do, you can see yourself relaxing your head, shoulders, and down. A lot of people might ask, well, why not the whole body? The trick is, if you see yourself relaxing, from the top of the head, the neck, shoulders to the fingertips. That's going to relax the rest of your body. So when you do your breathing, you want to be relaxed. And then when you do it for a while, that's when you start having all kind of experiences, like the feeling of floating or the feeling of having a trance-like state, or visions, or flashes of information coming to you, flashes of perception, if I may. The breathing is also good because it helps to oxygenate the brain and calm us down. One of the reasons why we have a lot of anxiety is because of the incorrect breathing in which we were taught as we were children. Not so much as somebody instructed you to breathe this way, but you just simply learned it, because we were taught, especially as men, we were taught to like walk out with your chest out and be all, G'd up. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna let nobody walk up on me, but at the same time, they also caused us to have incorrect breathing where we didn't relax, or traumas that we've gone through. There's a whole lot of reasons why we have learned how to breathe in the ways in which we breathe, but what you want to do is you want to cut down on breathing 18 breaths a minute and take slower, deeper breaths when you are going into your trance state of meditation. And when you go into this trance state, that's when you want to see with your mind's eye what you want to create and try to put a little feeling behind what it is that you're working on creating. See, that's the head haru energy, that feeling. So, also the experience of love and experience of joy, or if you're having senses of pleasurable sensations, you can actually use that in your prayers. You see, a lot of people may be ashamed of the sensations that they may be feeling. However, if you move from out of judgment, you can transmute that energy, the energy of eros, the energy of lust and everything else. You can transmute that energy into prayer energy and raise that energy upward and spiral it down. You see what I mean? So when you breathe that energy, let's say you're feeling hot and bothered, right? So what you do is that you focus on that energy. You're going to breathe it up, and then breathe it down. Breathe it up from behind and circulate it in the front. See it as an orbit. When you're breathing into the nose, right? You breathe from your lower belly. You make your belly come out like a pot, filling your belly up. And then when you're breathing out, you're going to gently suck the belly back in. And be patient with yourself, okay? Especially if we're not used to breathing that way. Be patient with it. Allow it to kind of unfold. It's the alchemy of the process that makes it a good thing. But if we try to rush it, try to make it happen, then what we're going to discover is that which we're trying to force is resisting us. You see what I mean? Because the thing about it, you don't like to be forced into doing anything, right? So we don't like to be forced, right?
Right.
We don't even like to be forced by ourselves. Okay?
I know,
So,
right?
yeah, you know, so you learn how to do the gentle breathing. Don't try to make it. Allow it to happen bit by bit. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Be patient. Have patience with the process. Right? It's the cultivation. It's that love that we were talking about. When we show this love towards anything, it develops. When we show love towards our plants, they flourish. When we start showing love towards our children, they grow. The same can be true to the love of a higher knowledge. It flourishes, and the universe gives us access to even more until you find yourself gaining even more knowledge from beyond the senses. So, a lot of people may say, well, this stuff came after ancient Kemet. Well, I'm going to take you back, but there's a few stops that we need to make on the way back so we can understand how much access we've actually have had to this knowledge that was hidden right under our noses, because a lot of this is part of the Western Mystery School. And the Western Mystery School, a lot of times they connect it to Tahuti, who they call Thoth, all right, Idris, Hermes, and so forth. In fact, you look in even Masonic literature, you discover that Hermes Trismegistus is said to be the father of the craft, meaning Hermes Trismegistus was identified with Thoth and Tahuti. Tahuti is Thoth, you see. So the beginning of Greco-Roman occupation, Gnosticism was teaching that knowledge of self is the knowledge of one's own soul, and knowing the true nature of the soul was beyond the confines of mere physicality. Gnosticism wasn't really on the radar until after the birth of Christianity, and not to say that there wasn't forms of it that preceded the church. The source material that came down to us as the Gnostic text relies on Judeo-Christian interpretations of this ancient work, and is flavored with this sort of trapping, but with more mystical twists, where Christ may be recognized as the spirit being in which we can all access within ourselves, and how this anointing takes place within us. So the Gnostics also looked upon Yahweh, or Jehovah, as a shadow of the actual true God, you see. But Yahweh is also a formula that you'll learn if you get into the teachings of Kabbalah and so forth. The Gnostics considered Yahweh as the demiurge, a disagreeable entity that wanted to enslave humanity with these assistants of this group called archons. But with deeper study, you come to realize that all Yahweh is the interaction of the four elements. Now they speak about a Lord, about Yahweh, about the Lord Yahweh and so forth, the Lord God and so forth. But this is when you're getting into the politics of the religion, and then understand that, Yahweh seems to take some type of shape of a landlord, and there seems to be a lot of fighting over land and territory and so forth. Okay, well, that's the politics of their religion. But our spirituality deals with developing an internal connection with the divine, and we have always had it. We'll find it in any place that is located, even a comic book. In fact, when you look at a lot of the comics, you discover that a lot of these are the teachings of our ancestors in the form of superheroes, in which I call super herus and super het herus, in which we all have the potential to become. By tapping into our true nature, we become supernatural. So it was not based on dogmatic beliefs, but achieving states of awareness that liberates you from the limits of your physicality and reality. We're light beings in crystallized form. The challenge is that this form gives us sensations in which we may not always be aware that we're experiencing spirit. And as a result, we find ourselves imprisoned by our senses while seeking sense gratification. Yet, it is also necessary for us to have these physical bodies so that we can have these experiences and go through this life feeling these sensations. It's not a bad thing when you step out of judgment. The challenge is bringing balance. The problem comes from not gaining control of our survival mechanisms, in which our subconscious dominates. And this is why so many of us succumb to these things in such an unhealthy way. So we have to understand that there has always been access to this information, but a lot of times you were told not to go there. Otherwise, you're questioning God because you're questioning your religious leaders. But they never allowed you to let spirit do what spirit tells you to do within their own scriptures, and that is be guided by spirit. And spirit will show you a lot of things, aka spirit, spiritus, which means breath, which means the essence of ourselves. We can contact and connect with our own spirit, and which is known as the Ruach HaKodesh. So we have to understand that there was also historical things that took place that destroyed our access to this knowledge, including the decline of Kemet around the 7th century BC. And this opened up the door for the Persian invasion led by Cambyses. Next, we have the Macedonian Greek occupation of Kemet with the one who was known as Alexander the Great, Alexander the Greek. He arrived in Kemet around 332 BC after taking Syria from the Persians a year before. And after the death of Cambyses, Darius took control of the Persian Empire, and Alexander moved in on the Persians, who at the time were under the rule of Darius, and he actually defeated them. But let me be clear, Alexander invaded Kemet that was also under Persian occupation. He defeated the Persians in Kemet as well, with little to no resistance from the Cometians, having yet to recover from so many years of Persian occupation. So he made Egypt a part of his empire. Alexander himself did not wait too long before he went out and consulted the oracle and became known as a son of Amun. 331 BC, Alexander visited the oracle of Siwa in the Siwa oasis. As legend would have it, he was guided by two birds to the temple of Amun, where it was revealed that he was indeed the son of Zeus Amun. And after this, he was declared a god on earth and began to be depicted as a servant of Amun on walls and temples, according to legend. Let's keep in mind that due to Alexander's tutoring under the one who is identified as Aristotle, he could have been shown secrets or protocol that would have allowed the priests to be open with him in ways that others would not have had access. History also shows us that Alexander was indeed made a king or a pharaoh, in which he had been given his 5 names, which all kings of Kemet had bestowed upon them. His name that he was given, the main name, was Setepenre Meri Amun. This name was so important that it had a rope around it, that it would be protected. This was called the Shenu. So Alexander passed away in Babylon in 323 BC at the age of 32. Now, the interesting thing about it is that Alexander was struck with a fatal illness where it took him 12 days to die, so they think. And after 6 days, his physician noticed that his body showed no signs of decay. More recently, it is being understood that Alexander may have suffered from an autoimmune disease called GBS, which stands for Guillain-Barré syndrome. And it starts out as abdominal pain and spreads throughout the body, paralyzing the body until the individual is unable to move, but the mind is still functioning. So this means that while appearing to be dead, he was unable to tell anyone. So in other words, I believe that Alexander may have been buried alive and being entombed, for a lack of a better term. Ptolemy's had him buried in Menepher. Now his body is mummified and placed in a golden coffin, which is a 7-day process. So he was buried alive, for all we know. And this was discovered in, speculated upon in the year 2019. So that was more recently, within like a few years ago. So it was the name Ptolemy. The one named Ptolemy would take charge of the fragments of Alexander's empire in Kemet. And he would be known as Ptolemy I Sotar, the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty in 305 BC. And it was he that began the construction of the Library of Alexandria. And it was he that eventually wanted total dominance, but he wasn't able to do so because he could not establish the kind of relationship with the priesthood of Kemet. So he deemed it unnecessary to unite Kemet and Greek culture. And he actually deemed it necessary to unite these two cultures under the netter known as Serapis. Now, Serapis was a combination of 2 Neteru, Wasir and Hapi. Neteru are the force of nature, the deities, and extensions of the divine. So Wasir and Hapi is just the original way of saying Osiris and Apis, or Apis. And of course, Wasir is the netter that represents the divine ancestors of the Cometians, and he also represents germination, regeneration, as well as the cosmic cycle renewal. The Apis bull represents the same spirit of Wasir in animal form. The bull was a symbol of strength and power. So one of the ways we connect with Osir is chanting Om, right? In fact, Om is a good way to connect with all the Neteru, because it is the golden key in which we turn to connect with our higher self. So Om is the same sound vibration as Om and Amen. You chant Om, you chant this long enough, you'll feel it. You can start chanting 30 times, right? then 108 times. 30 times in the morning, 30 times at night, and then space it out. And develop the feel for it. Feel it all here as you're chanting, and feel it go throughout your body, you see. Because by being present with this sound vibration resonating through you, you become more present. And at the same time, other people will feel your presence. Hence, the past, the present, and the future. The present is a gift. That's why we call it the present, because it's the gift of being, in which we should never take for granted. So, being present is how we enjoy life. Being present, being in the now, is when you collect all of your power. Being in the now, not being stuck in fear about what might happen, or feeling guilty about what could have happened, or ashamed of what did happen. Okay? So, something else too, I just thought I'd throw that in. There's the function as the living oracle. Apis the bull was part of a system of divination where he was taken through a labyrinth, and whichever room he would be led into was read as an omen, deciphered by the priest. And a similar system exists among the Dogon, where they'd have patterns drawn in the earth, and the footprint of the fox will be read when the diviner sees that the animal has crossed over the patterns. The ancient Cometians had this type of divination system, where instead of the fox, it was the apis bull. So they had different ways of using oracles, you see. Hence, the labyrinth of the Minotaur began with the labyrinth of the apis bull. So this is how the oracle was utilized to predict the outcome of future events, or know if there was some force in nature that needed to be addressed. The worship of Apis was prominent in Menepher, also known as Memphis, where the sacred bull was also identified with Ptah, Ptah being the divine architect and craftsman of the universe. So the depiction of Serapis that was preferred by Ptolemy was a Hellenized bearded man with a container of grain or corn on his head. The corn and grain were identified with Wasir. However, this version of Serapis resembled the Greek deity Zeus. And many would say that this is where you get the beginning stages of the image, which would later be that of Jesus. And some would argue that this image is the created creature in which Arius may have known about, as well as the church fathers who were striving to bring the image to life while simultaneously covering up its origin. Ptolemy reestablished the worship of Serapis in Alexandria at the temple called the Serapeum. Now later, the Roman Emperor Hadrian, established with followers of Serapis, called themselves Bishops of Christ. So Christian apologists are saying that the letter written was a forgery, but more on this later. One thing I will say though, I always encourage people who, upon hearing these things, to go and research for yourself and see whether or not it's true. You see, don't just take everything that I'm saying to be real, to be true. Look and research, experiment, and go your own way with it. Take it to the direction in which you need to fulfill your own self-realization. So we must understand that the knowledge gathered out of Kemet and other parts of the world that was concentrated in Alexandria brought together intellectuals that were of Roman, Greek, Jewish, and of course, native Cometian. But the elite of Alexandria wrote and spoke in Greek. So did the Jews who had also gathered there, in which 72 Jewish Greek-speaking rabbis would write the Septuagint, not to mention that Alexandria was a center of commerce, so there was much going on. The Septuagint is the origin of what would later become your Bible. So this would spawn many thinkers who developed their own schools of thinking. The problem with this form of government that wants power and control is that if there's too many intellectuals and thinkers, and not to mention those reaching higher levels of being, it becomes hard to control that kind of population. And this would lead to the start of the greatest dumbing down campaign in history of human existence. And religion was the method of choice, along with the destruction of the spiritual temples of the ancient ones. Okay. So one of the things eventually we are going to talk about is how the seeds of Gnosticism came into being, and how it was the Romans who created this empire that pulled it off most, and how to lead, a chain of events that would shape our world to this very day. It is said that in Kemet there was a method to communicate with the forces of nature in chanting the sacred vowels. The 7 vowels having been utilized were preserved in Coptic, which was the Greek writings, the Greek version of the Meta language, the ancient Kemetic language spoken in Greek. They used a script with 7 more letters, and they call this the Coptic script. So you will not be able to see this evidence as far as the vowels being in a Meta because these Meta symbols, these hieroglyphs, they did not express vowels. And most of the material that came down to us is obviously after the Ptolemaic era. The indigenous Egyptian or Comitian calendar went by 9-day weeks or 10-day weeks, depending upon the nature of the calendar. The 7-day week is definitely not indigenous to ancient Kemet. Evidence of the ancient Egyptian knowledge of acoustics can be found in the construction of these ancient temples. So they did have sound vibrations. They did understand how to sound with enchant sounds like ooh, because you're not going to be able to just chant with consonants. The most you can do is like maybe do some or but they actually was working with vowels, obviously, because of the way the acoustics were made within these temples. And you can learn this from the works of Abdul Hakim. When you get a chance, look up Abdul Hakim and the ancient acoustics of Kemet or Egypt. So we have been believed or led to believe that Abraham, right, who is said to have been Chaldean, was from Ur. This idea of the 7 planets coming from Chaldea or Chaldean influence is also known that it was the Babylonians and that group who really came up with the 7-day calendar in that region. Now, according to your Bible, Abraham was a Chaldean from the land of Ur. We also have been led to believe that Chaldea was merely a place in Mesopotamia, but the word Chaldea is from the word Chaldee, meaning priest astrologer. So the 7 vowels are many that we still use to this day, right? But we have alpha, you go for alpha, epsilon, that's the short e, eta or eta, which is long e, iota, omicron, upsilon, and omega. Hence, iota, alpha, omega. I am the alpha and the omega. At times, when you go into meditation, it'll be good for you to just sit and meditate using these particular vowels. Or you could just chant with the sacred vowels, A, E, I, O, U. And just chant with the vowels themselves. You see what I mean? Learn how to become musical. Another chant that I think is very powerful is still used by the Sufis in ancient today. And they say Allahu, hu, hu. Another word, or another way of saying it is a hu. What I suggest you do and try is to chant hu. Chant it for like a good 15 minutes and see how you feel. And chant hu. If you could do this like daily, at least for like a week, see how you feel. See how your stomach feels. See how your energy level feels. What that chant is doing is literally removing blockages from within your being. You see. So it's very important that we understand the science of sound so that we do not continue to say the wrong thing about ourselves. We got to be careful what we say to ourselves. We got to be careful what we say to people around us, because oftentimes we're sending hexes towards others, and we're also sending hexes towards ourselves. So when you're feeling like you are in this state of depression or so forth, you want to build your inner fire back up. And later, Queen Mother Ishram, I love that name because of the word of power that it has in it. Ram. That's dealing with your solar plexus energy. And you'll find the word Ra throughout the ancient world. In fact, even in the Yoruba, the word Ra has something to do with power. In India, the word Ra has to do with your inner fire. And of course, we know in ancient Kemet where Ra is affiliated with the sun. So you want to ignite that inner fire, raise it up, and let it reverberate throughout your whole body. Say Ram, Ram. Do it with me. Ram.
One more time, I'm ready.
Okay.
Out loud, I'm ready.
Uh,
Oh, you did a lot with me.
you know, get a little music with the nose, connecting with this heart energy. Yours connecting with the solar plexus. Ah, 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 oh. Let your spirit vibrate. Let your soul glow. What they say coming into America, you're just not going to have the drip. Just give it a drip, you good. The drippy Jerry curl. Just let your soul glow. Let it flow, you see. When you're able to connect with that inner sound, you'll be able to hear that vibration throughout the day. You'll be one with it. And when you continue to chant these words of power, you identify with the higher power by remembering Amen, remembering Ung, remember Ayo, remembering the sacred name within yourself. Because what you are doing is you are identifying with something beyond all the rubbish that you run into in your daily life in this society to keep reminding you of that which is less than, to get you to think that you are less than. You see, so there's various teachings in the Nag Hammadi text. I say, check out the Gospel of Thomas, where it talks about how, where Jesus is actually speaking with his disciples, supposedly, but they refer to Jesus as being more of a master teacher. And by the way, he says something that's very interesting. He says, split a piece of wood and you will find me there. What does that mean? Look at the word piece of wood. A piece of wood is also identified with the log. Remember we spoke about the logos? When you dialogue, dia means to split. Log, to cut a log, to split a log. It says split a piece of wood, you will find me there. Lift a rock, you will find me there. The interesting thing about it is when you split the piece of wood, you're splitting the log, right? You're dialoguing with another individual. You are splitting wood with the other individual. You're splitting the log with another individual. A book is a log. When you open the pages, you're splitting a log. When you dialogue, these are two people gathered in his name or her name or the name of the divine. When two or more are gathered in my name, you will find me there. You just have to decode the language, you see. We live in a society that teaches you to reject knowledge and trade it for opinion. Oh, I don't feel that. Well, not everything that you learn is going to make you feel good. Okay? You know, one of the newest phrases that I keep on hearing nowadays is facts don't care about your feelings, and that's true. But you also got to learn how to put facts in the right place because facts are parts of things. It means to factor in and manufacture. That's what facts are. You could put facts in the wrong place and confuse people too. So you have to align the facts with truth. Otherwise, you can use facts and still be dishonest. You can lie by omission. So when it comes to tapping in and being one with your divine self, tap into the sacred sound, but eventually you go beyond that which is not utterable. Absolute silence, yet at the same time, feeling the highest vibration. Any questions? Any comments?
Not so far right now.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that I've always, thought about us as melanated people is that we would do well to raise our self-esteem. And one good sound vibration for that is ring, right? This deals with the fire deities like Haru, Shango, Harukti, and so forth. Ring, chant ring, or harim. It could be with a HRING or an HREEM. Either way, what you're doing is that you're raising that inner fire of motivation. Try chanting that every day. Choose something, choose a mantra, choose a word of power that you can chant that will awaken that drive within you. Harim, Harim. Raise your self-esteem with Harim. Harim. Become a leader with Harim. 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 I love saying that vibration. I feel it. Increase your intellect. Aim. Increase your intellect with Aim. That's a Mercurian heka or mantra. Aim. 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 You got an SU in your corner and a legba, go to that SU or go to that Sevek or go to that Apuat. Chant. Aim. Aim. Awaken that consciousness of being able to put words in the correct place. Dealing with the intellect and utilizing the intellect correctly. Tap into that aspect of liberation. Ah, hum. Notice how whom also contains the word hue. You know, a lot of times when something tastes good, you're like, ah, right? Yeah, ah, These sounds are connected with pleasure. Even when you're making love, the sounds that are made, all those are words of power. So when you're working with sound, just have a focus of where you're trying to go and go beyond that focus and just allow it to be. Take the training wheels off at some point in time and just let it resonate. And after you chant it for like 15 minutes, sit still and feel it reverberate throughout your being. And that's when you focus on the things that you want. It's a pleasurable feeling in which you convert into the energy of magnetism. So this physical realm, it does not have to be just a prison, but a place of mastery, a place where you're playing with clay. They give you a hint. All these creation stories around the world keeps talking about the gods taking clay and fashioning humans out of it. Now, whether you take it literal or not, maybe that should give you a hint that maybe you should understand that you're shaping clay, being made in the image and likeness of God, or goddess, God, whatever, the supreme being, the great she, he, she, the divine it, the many, the one that is many, the many that is one. See yourself as shaping clay with existence. See yourself as molding your own existence. See yourself as molding reality, molding you into what you want to become, you see. But you might have to take that clay. It might be tough. You put a little bit of pressure on it. Sometimes you might need to wet it again. Let life be your craft. See yourself as being like a sword that has to be hammered and shaped. Starting off as a shapeless piece of iron, then hammered, sharpened, dipped, cooled off, then hammered, sharpened, cooled off until you finally got this polished blade. Or the alchemy untransmuting lead into gold. It's a step-by-step process in which we work on ourselves until we become so expanded that we are liberated. Now, many of us have had glimpses of oneness or being highly elevated. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes it could just be as simple as thinking about the divine, having the divine on your mind for a whole day, and just thinking about the divine being within yourself and the divine that you see within others and the ancient ones, you see. One of the reasons why a lot of times we feel so low is because we think about things that keep us in the place of that false God program, keep us in the place of being moved around and pushed around by the elements, people's attitudes, you having issues on your job, coming back to take it on the people that you love, and feeling blue and feeling depressed. All these are just conditions, but we must remember that our spirits are not conditioned. We're not conditioned, not on the utmost level, but we go through conditions. It's just that we forget. And that is the idea of being imprisoned within the physical body. Not so much that you actually are doomed to remain in this situation forever, but it's because you have forgotten. So what we're here to do is remember, bringing back the pieces. O E A O I Iota Alpha Omega. I am the Alpha and Omega. That's what you're supposed to say to yourself. Because there is no beginning and there is no end. You are an aspect of the many that emanates from the one. With that being said, my sisters and brothers, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up.
Peace, gratitude. I
What's that now?
appreciate you. Now, Chief Elder Minister John D. Henry was here, and he spoke on the no beginning as well, the no ending, and well, he spoke on the no beginning, and I think I mentioned it, or at least I meant to say beginning is to imply an ending.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for those that say they are eternal and energy just does not exist, then that means there is no beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So I appreciate you being here, Siba Khepra Ptah. I'm not sure if you saw all the comments, but definitely, as always, people were just take their it appears that they were taking in the knowledge. There were no questions. They were in like absorb mode. I don't mean to offend nobody if that wasn't you, but it appears like they were just absorbing. They were in tune with you. Taking notes definitely. Comment that you're dropping knowledge. Oronde Stokes, PC, but he is here and he mentioned because it looks like he came in a little late. He is in downtown Detroit. What up, though? And he says he's going to go and start it from the beginning and take notes. So yes, as always, looks like he also mentioned he learned some great things in depth about Alexander too from you. So yes, definitely we're all here, um, and appreciate you as always. Um, yes. Okay. So as Shariri L hashtag unoccupied Turtle Island has mentioned, like and share this wisdom. Definitely. Um, that's all we have this evening. That's for now. And I will be here in about a half hour, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, with my next guest. And as always, Uncle Jasaneb Siba Khepra Ptah.
Uncle Justin now. Pretty much.